who was in the role, wasn't a big fan of events. I think she sort of just got slotted into it. So I came in and everything was, I'm not sure how you guys, oh, actually, I won't swear. I'm going to swear. Everything was a mess, an absolute mess. It was all paper based. We'd get event management plans that were half written and risk management plans that we weren't supposed to be getting. And it was a 1-page application form that didn't give me all the information. So I was going back and forth. It took so long. It was ridiculous. So within 6 months or so of me coming in 2019, I was like, it needs to be online. It was the first thing I knew needed to be done to make it easier. And a guy that I was working with at the time had helped implement SmartyGrants in his role. So he suggested SmartyGrants. So I started popping on and just having a fiddle with how the grants worked. And the grants team actually moved to our team. So I was able to work closely with them on what the system did. And it was always only an interim platform for us for the last couple of years, but it seemed it was fitting our needs perfectly at the time. So from mid 2019, I started developing the online application form. I worked with regulatory services, engineering services, roads and coastal, the parks team, open space and environment, waste services, QPS, QFES, like everyone that could be involved in events across the region. I spoke to everyone to see what their requirements were. Because with the old process, I would get all the information for one event and get the same information for the next event, but then someone would be coming back to say, oh, but we need this for this event, or we need this, and it was constantly back and forth. So I basically got a mind map of what everyone needed and I put it into a questionnaire. I worked really closely with regulatory services because as much as I know about local law to be able to provide advice to people, I didn't know enough to be comfortable with this whole doing it all myself. So Reg Services helped me build the form. We sent it past our solicitors to make sure all the declarations covered everything, and then we launched it. I think by the time we launched it, it was mid 2021 or 2020. I think mid 2022. So it took a long time, but that was like COVID hit, so there was a lot of shutdown with that, and then because of the paper-based form that we had, that took up the majority of my job. So trying to build a new platform at the same time. So it was a long process. If I did it again now, it would be a lot faster. So what I'm going to go through is what the SmartyGrants application form looks like from the customer's side, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it gets submitted to us and the way we process it. So have you guys all used SmartyGrants before? Okay, awesome. So you'll see the similarities between grants. All the only difference really is that I've got a lot more. Well, I don't know what other councils do, but I've got a lot more questions than what our grants team use for their process. A lot of people, we get a lot of complaints that it's such a detailed form, but it's all conditional. So if we have park run, they tick no to everything except for structures because they've got marquees. Or if you've got a big festival, they tick yes to pretty much everything because they've got road closures and food and jumping castles and all of that. So each year I review this form with we call it our internal network review events review group. And so we meet at the moment, it's monthly, but we usually meet every 2 months and go through any events that have happened, any issues that occurred, how this process is going, any issues we might see coming up with future events, and just discuss events in general, what's going well and what's not. So this time every year I go through this form. Sorry, everything's loading. Point by point with every team and just decide whether they still need questions. So we've cut it down significantly since we first did it because Reg Services wanted a lot of questions. They needed a full noise management plan. There was a lot they needed. So we've slowly cut that down each year to being the bare minimum now that they need to be able to assess. People still complain that it's too long, but they'll get over it. And butt in with questions if you want to, or if I'm going too fast. So basically, we've got all of the contact details. So if you're an organisation or an individual, individuals tend to be weddings with wedding receptions or birthday parties like that need an approval, those sorts of things, or like personal trainers. Then so we've got their ABN or incorporated association number, and then their applicant details. So whoever the main contact will be for the application. in their all their contact details. That one of the most important questions on this whole form is their insurance. So, will they be auspiced by another organisation? If they select yes, it asks for the organisation's details, a letter from the organisation confirming that their insurance will cover the event, and then a copy of that insurance. If they're not, it just requests a copy of their company's insurance. We've got a little blurb there that's from local law about what they need to provide as part of their insurance, that it needs to be 20 million. We've just recently removed from local law that they need to have council noted as an interested party. In local law now, it's at our discretion whether we request that or not. And that was a big, I don't know if you guys have that, but that was a big headache for us, was constantly going back to not-for-profit groups and explaining them to what it meant to have someone noted as an interested party and how to actually ring their insurer and request it. And then, what it actually meant. A lot of people thought it left them open to more liability. They didn't. It took a lot of time. So here they'll do the event name, a description. This whole questionnaire, it asks for all of the details like food vendors and whatnot, but it doesn't, there's nowhere in the form that it explains what the event actually is. So you could answer all the details, and it could be a concert, it could be a family fun day. All of the questions are broad. So they just give a bit of a description, the event category, whether it's commercial, non-commercial, not-for-profit, and I've got the descriptions there. And then how often the event will occur, whether it's one-off, weekly, and multiple. These change. So if I go to one on, there's descriptions of what they mean, and bump in, bump out, what that means. So if they select one off, it's got the bump in, the event start, the event end, and the bump out, dates and times. If they select weekly, sorry.
Can I jump in, Michaela? I forgot to mention to you guys at the beginning that Michaela has offered to share. If you
Especially you're breaking up. I'm not sure if everyone else can hear you.
I try slower and see if it works, but Michaela's willing to share this application form with you so that you could take her foundation and tweak it for your needs instead of starting from scratch.
Yep. So all we do is send it to, I can just email SmartyGrants and say, can they share this particular form? And you give me your email addresses, like your admin email addresses for SmartyGrants, and they'll send you the whole form the exact same way it is. And then you guys can just edit as you need to. I did that with Bundaberg. I don't think they ended up using SmartyGrants, but I did that so they could have a fiddle and see if they liked it or not. So if you select weekly, it's just got the start and end date, start time and end time. So this is like our markets, our park run, any of those sort of ongoing activities, what days of the week they do, and then any additional notes that, so like we've got some markets that might have an extra Easter market or an extra, something like Park Run does Christmas Day, even though it's not on their regular calendar. So they'll put those extra details in there. Or multiple. We've got some events, and everyone probably does. We've got some that might happen once every 2 months on every third Saturday or something, and they're not dates that in this system can automatically be calculated. So they put in the event name or location, depending on what the event is. I help people with this. So if we have this event called Food and Groove. It happens multiple times, and at times, sometimes it goes in different locations. So they'll, instead of putting Food and Groove in 3 lines, they'll put City Park, Seafront Oval, Queen's Park, wherever, so I know which locations they're at on which days. Whereas some events will be at the same location, but they might have 3 days worth of, so one might be Youth Week, one might be, I can't even think, but like it might be, we have like a medical bus that goes around. So they'll put in the different areas they're in, or the different types of activities they're doing. Doesn't fill this in yet. Sorry, I tried to get all this done before.
And you have to fill it in because it doesn't let you go forward without providing all the details. That's one of those controls to stop that back and forth with the event organisers, because they have to do it.
We still have issues. Like I still have to go back a lot because people will upload the wrong information, or they won't request bins, or like there's still a lot of back and forth. Or like they'll put on their site map that they've got jumping castles, but then they'll select no to temporary structures, and you're like, well, really? Like, so anyway, so the date, and then overall, and at any one time for the patrons, we put that in there because we had events. We've got this, and I think, I don't know about every state, but definitely in Queensland, we've got this guide for how many toilets need to be at events. And before we put this online, we had a lot of issues with reg services or with the health team, because they'd see an event had 2,000 people. So according to this calculation, they needed 42 toilets. But what they didn't calculate is it's 2,000 people over 2 days. So there's only like ever 100 people there at a time. So we only needed the 6 toilets that were already on site, and they just needed to be cleaned regularly. So it was a lot of headache back and forth. So that's why we put that in there. So there's more of an understanding. Like the circuses, they might have 2,000 people over 2 weeks, but only have 250 there at every show, or 100, or whatever it is. The next, I've broken down the areas by public place, private property, or leased land. I'm not sure how I don't know how your local laws sit. I don't know if it's different. I've never worked in this area in other councils. So we give permits for public land, private land, and council leased land, depending on the type of event. So if it's an event open to the public on private land, we still give a permit for that, the same as council leased land. Most of our events, though, are on public land. I've got the definitions for what they mean. One of the issues we get with people still is that we've got some places like the Fraser Coast Sports and Recreation Precinct. They'll tick that as leased property when it's not. It's actually just public land. So there's just confusion there with some places, but it doesn't take much to fix those couple of phone calls and emails. So let's say we select. I'll start with leased land. So if you do leased land, they ask. I've put in here the main leased land that are used, the most used, and otherwise they select other, and then they can give me the address of where it is, and an acknowledgement of the lessee, or whether they are the lessee or not. And if you select private property, it asks for the address so that we can put it on the site map, on the approval when we're up to that. And then public place. So this is the area that's divided by all of the, like we've got Hervey Bay, Maryborough, and then these are all of the outer areas that we've got in the region. And then we've got foreshores, car parks, and halls and venues. So if someone selects halls and venues, give it Hervey Bay, it pops up saying that you don't need a permit, please contact blah, blah, blah. So that hopefully they haven't gone through this whole form thinking that they need a permit for these areas. So if we start with Hervey Bay, and then these are our main used parks. This has changed in our new booking system, and I'll give you a quick run through that once we've gone through SmartyGrants. So these were our most used parks when like over the last couple of years, even though we've got like 126 different sites. We just left it as this, and then people just typed other if it was somewhere else. The next question is environmental use. Are they using bathing reserve, boat ramps, jetties, pontoon river, the Great Sandy Straits, or outside of the bathing reserve? And so then I provide maps of when it loads. And so that shows, it's a very rough drawing, like very rough site map, but it'll show where the Great Sandy Strait is. And I found this morning there is this bathing reserve, but I found this morning that the attachment's not there anymore. I'm not sure why, but I need to look at that. Then it requests the site map, and so I've specified that it needs to show the location of the site in relation to the surrounding land use, so it needs to be an aerial view. Detailing the location and placements of all rides, animal structures, waste bins, toilets, entertainment facilities, car parking and food operations, and defined access and egress points for emergency vehicles.
Do you have site plans for those key parks that are often used for events? Already some kind of template?
I actually do. I don't share them unless I absolutely need to. Well, not absolutely need to. I don't share it unless someone requests it. So on the actual form I've got here, so you can view, no, could view, not can't now, but there's maps. I had maps that, oh God, I'm finding all these errors. So
you show so
you
get that one, the purpose of the once a year.
Yeah. No, we usually like one thing errors. Sorry.
One thing I often see when I look at a council's website of venues for events, like unless you're a local and you know what those parks are, it's so hard to find which park would meet my needs, where they are, what their facilities are, without having to look at like 30 different web pages.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's often a gap.
This is one of the reasons we're moving to this new booking system. So this new booking system, it's been in the process since at the same time I was putting this into place. I knew getting this new system would take a long time. So that's why I put in SmartyGrants as the interim platform. But this new system is supposed to have all of my application questions. It has the booking calendar. I'll show you a little bit at the end of this, and it shows like the maps and gives it. Eventually, when I finish pulling all the information together, it'll tell you. You'll be able to search by basketball court, and it'll give you a list of all the parks with basketball courts, etc. It's more tailored. But I'm not going to lie, that has been the worst system I've ever had to. I've worked with a lot of systems, and it's the worst system I've ever had to implement. So I'm really hoping once it's up and running, it will be amazing. If anyone puts their hand up as well, I can't see the notifications because I'm sharing my screen. So just butt in whenever you need to. So then I've got the sitemap. So to answer the question, so these are all, well, not all of them, but these are, as I go through and people request sitemaps, I just save them as I go. So I just go into near maps and I'll do a boundary of when it opens. So part of this new booking system that I'm doing at the moment is I'm developing sitemaps like this, and they'll be attached. They'll be layered, and they'll be in the new booking system in Intramap, so that people can go in and so this park itself will actually be divided by 3. It'll be cut down here, and there'll be this half, this bit, and then this side. And so in their application form, ideally, if the system works properly, they'll be able to select which area they want to use or whether they want to use all 3. We've got that all up and down the Esplanade as well.
And will you include more detail, like where the toilets are, where the water and power is, where the underground services are, where you should put your market, where you should put your Waterloos, not you have to, recommendations,
but
and like how many parking spots there are.
So we're actually developing as well the compendiums for the sites. So this is a very old one, but where is it? Seafront Oval's our most used major event space, and it's quite beautiful. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's when it opens. If you guys ever come up here, it's very green in this picture, but it's quite a nice location. It's our biggest open space. So this gets used for concerts and concerts and major events. Our Christmas carols are here and whatnot. So the issue with this is that when it was developed just before I started, I think the development finished in 2018. So it used to just be a big paddock that was used as a football field pretty much. When they developed it in 2017, 2018, no one consulted with anyone that had anything to do with running events or event sites. So underneath the ground is you can sort of see lines throughout here. There's a lot of irrigation, but there's also a lot of trenching. There's a lot of pipes and power and everything. So no one can peg in the ground at all, which is very annoying, especially when you've got things like circuses who have got giant tent pegs. And as well, for a while, for a few years, the Open Space and Environment team wouldn't let anything over 8-ton GVM go on the oval. So that cut out a lot of our carnivals and concerts and anything that you would have thought would go to this site. We had to push elsewhere, which was sucked. But it took me a bit, but I was able to twist their arms after a little while and get them to go back there. Just trying to find, we had a so we've got this map, this is off Intramaps. Do you guys use Intramaps?
Yeah, I've never heard of it myself either.
Oh, okay. So Intramaps is it's basically got our whole region and everything in it. We've got all of our infrastructure, the coastlines, anything to do with properties planning. We've got different maps that are divided, they've got different layers. And so at the moment, I scroll down to this. So this is Seafront Oval we were just looking at. So when I click on that, it gives me the property boundary, which when it shows up, it's that red line, but it doesn't include the whole site. So that's why I'm developing these site, which isn't there now. the site maps that I was showing you with the blue lines, so that we can create a map in Intramaps that just so people can select event and it brings up the exact area they can use for their event, so they don't have to keep coming to me for it. And that's what they'll be able to use in the new booking system. So, and that'll be on council's website. We've got an Intramaps page on council's website. So we'll have the links to that in the new booking system as well as the actual images.
Even says what day the bin day is, Tuesday.
Yeah, it's got everything. It's got as you scroll down, it's got your councillor. This is council's side, so this has got a lot of information the public don't have, but on our website there is an Intramaps that only has like properties and a few other details that aren't confidential, because this has got like all of the owners, all details that are needed. So then we get into all of the associated activities. They've got, will there be food? Yes. What type of food? If it's food business, they need to provide the name, the food license number, and then what they'll be operating from, a marquee, a vehicle, or unknown. Health, the health team have to go out to a lot of events to check licenses and make sure people are trading correctly, because they find, and I don't know if you guys are the same, there's a lot of food vendors that will say they're doing something and then they'll do something completely different. So that gives them at least a general idea. And like if health finds that a food business license is out of date, they won't come back to me and then back to the event organizer. They'll just contact the food business directly. So just to backtrack a little bit, my role is regional event officer. When I first started, it was community event support officer. So the actual role itself has changed massively in the last few years. But basically, my role is to be the concierge between all of the internal departments and an event organizer. Because before me, or before my role, not just before me, but before my role, an event organizer had to go to reg services, to parks, to waste, to coastal, to everyone individually, which obviously that meant a lot of things were missed. People got confused. It was just painful. So now I'm that in-between person for everything until it gets more specific to knowledge I don't have. So parks do, even though I know nearly every one of these parks back the front, because I've been working with them for so long, parks do, or open space and environment, do the on-site visits with event organisers before the event to give them a copy of the keys and run them through the specifics of the site. If there's, we've had questions recently about the beach after the storms, because we've had a volleyball tour here. Those sorts of requests go straight to the coastal team, because as much as I know about the beach, I have no idea about the canva of the sand and how hard or soft it is. And so anything that gets more specific goes directly to those teams. So I don't give them the wrong advice. So food business details. And they select coffee van, it just asks for the business name. And you can select more than one of these. Not-for-profit sausage sizzle, it just gives them some information about it and food safety standards. And then other is just a text box. Quite often people will put in there like, oh, we're selling baked lamingtons or something, and then we're able just to send them the food safety licensing details or whatnot that Health give me. Alcohol consumption. So we've got sold, bring your own, or provided for no charge. I don't know with you guys, like I said, I haven't worked in this area in any other council, so I don't know if it's different anywhere else. But in regards to liquor licensing, sold and provided for no charge are the same thing, because you're still giving. Provided for no charge is generally a ticketed event, or it's not someone bringing their own, so they'll still need a food license. Liquor license for that. We've got it listed as 3 individual, because most people won't understand that if they're running an event and giving alcohol away for free, that they still need a liquor license to be able to do that. So if they're selling alcohol, they can access their liquor license. God, I need to go through and check all these links.
I love this part though, like making it so easy for people not to find the other licenses and requirements they need. I think that I didn't know that you had that in your form. It's really good.
Yeah, I try and direct everyone to everywhere. So I'll show you when we get to fireworks, it's the same, because we really need to make sure that we're covering all bases and that we've done our due diligence in ensuring public safety really through all of these. That's the whole point of it. So what they can do is go to that link, complete the application, and then they upload it here for us to endorse. quite often people just email it to me because by the time they've submitted this application and then we go through it and like they need their endorsement, we say people need to submit their application 6 weeks in advance, but you'd be surprised, or you probably wouldn't be surprised, but we get some the week of the event, or last year we had one where a lady submitted it the day before the event, and because it was such a high profile event and like I'd been chasing it for months and it was like a 15th year of doing the event, because I've been chasing her for so long, like because it was such a high profile event, the councillors were like, well, you need to make this happen. So it's sort of just, headaches. So bring your own is a wet area permit or declaration. So it's got the information about what the difference is between wet area and liquor license, the address they'll be having it, which is the same site as the event, but we ask for it specifically anyway, especially if it's say on private land. Oh no, sorry, mind blank. Anyway, we get the address anyway, just in case it's different for any reason. Then we get a site map showing the specific location. So our liquor licenses for endorsement and for the wet areas, they go to the same executive manager that approves this permit, the local law approval, but I send them to her separately so that we've got 3 separate approvals. So it's very clear and cut and dry on what has been approved. Then they just tick a declaration that says that they understand it's an offence to consume alcohol, blah, blah, blah. Those are from Queensland Police, those conditions. So, and then provided for no charge, it comes up with the liquor licence question as well. So fireworks. So when I did this whole process, our governance team said we needed to stop requesting copies of event organisers' risk management plans, because then we're deemed to have approved that document, even if and I don't have approved, I don't have any sort of qualification to provide advice or approve risk management plans. So they said it's just the liability of us is to not check them anymore and not request them. There are exceptions to that rule though, which is like jumping castles and not fireworks. So for jumping castles and big rides and things, we request their safety management plans, and that's just because of the accidents that happened in Tasmania. So as soon as those jumping castle accidents happened in Tasmania, we stopped allowing any activity, any amusement rides in council parks until we were able to get specific conditions from our solicitors regarding inflatable amusement devices. Sorry. So with the fireworks, they give us the address and whether it's public, private lease. So the question's the same as what it is for the site on the previous page, because most of the time fireworks aren't lit from the same place, aren't launched from the same place as what the event is being held. And quite often our fireworks are actually launched from a pontoon, either in the river or on the beach, off the beach. Launch date, launch time, the contractor details, name, ABN, and then their insurance, contractor license, and then the deployment site map. So these regulatory services check all of these to make sure that they're I check the date. So actually the most common thing I have to go back to event organisers with is requesting an updated insurance certificate, because they'll send one with last year's dates, or it won't cover this year's, or it'll be 10 million, not 20 million, like all those things. So that's the main thing. That and the site map are what I usually have to go back to people for. So I check the dates on these, but then regulatory services always double check it as well. So we've got multiple eyes on things because we all miss things. Then this is where I was saying we have earlier I was saying we let people know what they need to do. So we just put ensure you notify the public, Queensland Police, Queensland Fire Emergency Services, Natural Resources and Mines, Marine Authority and CASA. We used to actually request a copy from all of these departments that the organizer had contacted them, but it was always backwards. We would request the Marine Authority approval to show that the organizer contacted them, but they wouldn't give it to the event organizer until they got a permit from us. So it was so backwards. It was chicken and the egg. Then I'll just take note of that.
For that one there, Michaela, you don't have to have them kind of sign a waiver saying, yes, I will do that to release yourself from risk.
No. We just let them know that they need to contact those people, and then it's up to them whether they do or not. So that our governance team has told me that's fine, and our solicitor did, our lawyers did. So I'm satisfied with that. If they've all ticked it off, then I'll sit with their approval. Then we've got vehicles on the site. This question mainly came in because of the weight vehicles on Seafront Oval. The site I was showing you earlier that had an 8-ton GVM max rated. So they just put the type of vehicle, the weight of the vehicle, and how many there are, and will the vehicle be stationary on site after bump in, moving on site during the event, or on site during the event and bump out only. People mess this up all the time. They'll like, some people will copy exactly what's written there. But the main point is seafront oval, so that we know how many trucks are going on and off. And it's usually the bigger concerts and things that they know every detail that they need to provide. That and car shows, because we want to know the quantity of vehicles. But actually all car shows that we've got, I work closely with anyway, because they usually have some sort of grant or sponsorship through council. So I work with them just to make sure that they're doing everything they need to do. Temporary structures. So here we've got a list. These are just the temporary structures that I could think of, like, as we've been doing this, and slowly they've been divided out. So we had like large structures, and then we decided to have it as circus tent and large structures. So like we've changed it a bit. So it just asks, so when you select any of these, it pops down with the question that says, will pegs be used? If they select yes, it brings them up saying that our condition is that the approval holder needs to engage a suitably qualified and experienced accredited service provider to find the underground services before pegging. That will be gone, like we'll be able to get rid of that once we have all of those site maps and compendiums done, because that we'll be able to give them the site map and say you can peg here and here and here and nowhere else, sort of thing. When Seafront Oval was developed, we started building the compendium for that site in 2020, during COVID, because obviously we didn't have many events going on. There was no applications coming through. But we spoke to every team we could think of, and no one had a very clear map of all the infrastructure that went under the ground. And when we spoke to the contractors, they said that the nearest map they had was that they had a 5-meter distance. So like a pipe could be anywhere within this 5 meters. And we're like, well, that doesn't help, because that's a massive area when you're talking about one thing. So we'll be able to get rid of this question once we know, like once we have more data on what's under each park. So depending on what they select, we've got, there's a statement here about inflatable amusement rides, and this came in because of those jumping castle incidents. So people can read those before we put them on a permit. I like that, just so that they can ensure that they're going to be able to adhere to all of those conditions. And that's just, at the moment, it's just this isn't what our permit looks like, but this is just what I made it look like, so that people could go through and read all the specific conditions. Most of which have just come from like whatever the specific legislation is around inflatable devices. Our regulatory services and our solicitors put this together. When we get to the end of this, I'll show you what our permits look like too and how that works. So then the only other thing we ask for is their supplier name, the insurance, and the type of structure, because this box pops up no matter what you tick here. So we still need to know whether it's a jumping castle or a circus tent or whatever it is. Amplified noise, we've got the Environmental Protection Act points there, and then as to when we need to know about amplified noise, and I've just put if sound includes amplified equipment. This needs to be filled if sound amplifying equipment is used, because a lot of people here, they have no idea what 70 decibels is or what sensitive receptor is. So I've just put, if you're going to have any sort of amplified sound, pick yes, even if it's a microphone, a jukebox, whatever it is. All they have to give us is how they're going to notify the public. We used to have this like 4 questions big document, that they had to fill out. And then I kept hounding reg services, and I was like, well, what do you actually do with this information once you get it? And they said, oh, nothing, we just keep it. And I'm like, then I'm getting rid of it, because if you don't actually do anything with it, then I'm not wasting the the member of the public's time filling it all out if we don't actually need it for anything. So we just asked them how they notify the public, and they've got the conditions here on, like, if there's in their permit, they get all of the EPA conditions that say, like, no noise before 7 or after 10, 70 decibels, etc., etc. And then it says, like, we've just got a statement that says that pretty much anyone to do with the permit anyone to do with the event has to get a copy of the permit, so they know all of the conditions. Filming and photography, we don't have any requirement for filming and photography at the moment, unless they're actually having an associated activity like scaffolding or marquees, or like anything that would constitute a public place activity. So we've just got like the criteria, and then we just say for drones, contact CASA. If you're filming in a national park, contact here, etc., etc. Just to advise people of that. Then advertising. So this is only for pre-event advertising. And this is because we often, I don't know if you guys do, but we often get circuses that roll into town, get permits, like they come into town and then they leave all their signs everywhere. We had one a couple of years ago who sticky taped A4 signs to all of the power poles around schools and then left them there. And then when I contacted them and said, look, you need to come and take these down, I went back past because I live near a school, and someone had just gone past and ripped the paper off but left the tape there. So there was still half a poster stuck to the pole. So we have this so that when we say to people, you've left signs around, and they say, oh, we don't know where, we'll go back to your site map that you gave us and go to every one of those locations and make sure the signs are removed. Otherwise, you'll be getting a pin for not removing them. Most places don't and we use it for LED signs. So if the roads team need to know if they're using those trailer LED signs, like the road closure sort of signs, a few of our events like the show and things like that, they use those. So the roads team obviously want to know where they put them and what signs are being used so that we can make sure that they're getting the right permit for that. Then we go on to infrastructure. So will you require electricity? Yes, and it comes up with the type and quantity, and then it gives an example of what you need to put in. If you select a park that doesn't have power, then when they tick yes, it'll pop up with a statement that says there's no power available, or there's no electricity available at this location. I think we've only got two parks that don't have power, but I've been able to make it conditional enough that this question is conditional off what's selected in the location zone question. Then we've got compulsory services. So these are the toilets and waste at events fact sheets. This is what I was saying earlier about the toilet fact sheet when regulatory services was requesting a ridiculous number of toilets. And like I said, I'm not sure if this is from it's either state or federal guidelines on toilets at events. I can't remember where it came from, but it was from our reg services team. They were going off like 2,000 patrons where there was no alcohol, and once you added them all up, there was like 42 toilets or something all up that they needed. So here they put in the quantity of toilets, or not just toilets, all amenities, so hand basins, showers, change rooms, parents' rooms, etc. We will, in the new booking system, we've got it so that all of the toilets, like all of the sites, have what toilets are already on site. So we used to have multiple questions where it said we'd have two questions. One that said what sites are available, what toilets are available on site, as in built-in ones, and then what additional will you be bringing to the event site. But that confused everyone. So we've just put this as includes both built-in and portable amenities. People still get confused with it, but I can't really dumb it down any more than that at the moment. I don't know why that's so. Will there be access to fresh drinking water? Normally pops up with another question, and I don't know why it hasn't. But so under that, there's a reason it hasn't popped up. I don't know why. Anyway, underneath that normally pops up that it says like actually no, maybe that's in camp. Anyway, normally it pops up and says, well, is the water reticulated council supplied, or is it other or whatever, or is it non-reticulated? And then if they tick non-reticulated, it says, is it provided, is it bore water, tank water, or sourced externally or something? And then they've got to provide whatever documentation is requested. So if it's provided externally, they've got to provide an invoice of whoever they've purchased it off. And if it's tank water, I think they have to provide like quality testing or something. And of course, that annoys people, but it is what it is. Now, waste, I really like this. People put in the number of bins they want. Underneath, I've got what the service cost is for this financial year. And then it adds it up down here, depending on how many bins they've selected. And then it just says, like, there's an additional cost of $70 per bin. Oh, $70 per bin if they're booked within 5 days, which happens all the time. I don't know what you guys are like, but unfortunately, most people, 99% of people request fee waivers. And at the moment, we don't have a fee waiver policy, so they're all just waived. So we spent over 100,000 last year just in fee waivers, paying for other people's waste bins and other services. Then they get to select whether it's high top or regular size bins, and I've just attached a document that just shows just a basic image of what that is. So it's high top or regular, so that people can decide.
Just out of curiosity, is there a reason why when things open, they don't open in another tab, but they open as a download?
Oh yeah, because I've got it set as a download. Yeah. You can open it as another tab, but I've set my system so it opens as a download.
Was there a reason you chose that?
Oh, I just did it. That's my screen, because I like to do that from all the other websites as well. That's not just SmartyGrants. That's just the way I've set up my browser. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So
Yes,
in
sorry,
the background here, in the back, I'll show you the background later, but you can select opens in new window or downloads. Or I think it's open in new window or open in current window or something, but I've set my system so everything downloads so that I've got it. And then it says a box for extra information. So whether it's required, the delivery and pickup dates required, the number of services. So we've got some events, like most people, that go for a few days, and instead of ordering 60 bins, they might order 30 and get them serviced twice or something throughout that time. Oh, and then privately provided, they just say how will waste be managed, so that so our waste team can at least see that it's not just going to be waste everywhere.
Is
So we've
there
got
some kind of marker that tells the event organizer how far through the application form they are in terms of like how much time? I can see down the side there's the menu there. So they know they're on 7 out of 10 pages.
No, it doesn't say. No, it doesn't say how long they've got left, or like how. Yeah, it doesn't have percentages or no. Traffic management. So people, because they've got a login, people can come and go as they want to as well. So we let everyone know that, like, they just save it and can come back to it. So we've got traffic management. Will there be change to traffic conditions in relation to the event or activity? Example, road closures or temporary speed reductions. They have to upload their traffic management plan or traffic guidance scheme. Then what roads will be affected, and then the dates and start time, and then they can update this too and add extra dates if there's more than one day. Like our triathlons generally close the road. They might have 3 days of a triathlon, but they'll close the road from 6 a.m. till 10 a.m. every day. So they'll list every day individually.
Quick question.
Yep.
Sorry, just you said a traffic guidance scheme. What is that?
I was actually going to say, do you guys know what a traffic guidance scheme is? So traffic guidance scheme is just part of the traffic management plan. So traffic management plan can be like a 30-page document. Traffic guidance scheme is just the aerial view map of where all the signs need to go and where people are going to be placed and the speed, like the speed limits, that sort of stuff. And so our team only have to see that part. If someone submits a whole traffic management plan, it doesn't matter. But our team only checks the traffic guidance scheme to make sure it's not going to impact any other roadworks or anything in the region. And so that they're aware of any heavy vehicles coming in and out. They don't check the rest of the document. I request this like roads, this question, what roads will be affected, because in the whole time I've been here, I still can't master how to read a traffic management plan because there's so much. I don't know if you guys ever see them, but there's so much information, and like one page will say something and the next page will say something else. So I just say if they can list all the roads here, because that's what goes into the letter of no objection when I create that. So these are the conditions of approval for traffic for a road closure. The roads team like to have this question that says, yes, we understand, before we actually send them a letter of no objection. So it's an agreement. I think I have to tick yes to that. So this is just all the text that goes into the letter of no objection, but it's there so they can read it prior to going ahead. We've got camping. If they select camping, is it open to the public, patrons and staff only, or just staff? And then the address, the locations, the number of camp start date and the end date, because let's say like camp draft, those sort of things, they usually camp for longer than the actual event. A site map, and then what amenities will be provided for campers, and this has to be in addition to the event amenities because they usually need to be cleaned more often. They need more access to water, all those sorts of things. So this is where this question itself, it does work on the other page. I'm not sure why it didn't, but this is that reticulated council supply or non-reticulated, and that's where it comes up with those extra questions.
Do you have any guidance around camping that you need to give event organisers? Like you have to be this far from water or this far apart from each other?
No, when there are conditions in the permit, but I think if there's anything specific that, like most of the time, I can't, from memory, nearly every event that's had camping is at a showground or somewhere where there is already facilities there. And the only one we have is the sports precinct, I think, and there's no amenities there. So then health just make sure that they've got all of this. But there's if there's anything specific, regulatory services, the health team will talk to the event organizer directly to go through any extra specifics. But we do have camping conditions in the permit, and I'll show you those. Then there's just waste. Will there be waste? And it's the same as the other, like earlier. People get annoyed because if they tick yes to waste, they've got to answer half the same question. But once you explain to them that this is completely independent of the actual event application, like we need to know extra information, they understand it. I'll tick no for now. And then we get to the declaration, which is, have you ever had a permit refused, suspended or cancelled, or been found guilty of an offence under local law? No. And then it's got, in this application, we agree to be bound by and comply with the terms of Fraser Coast Regional Council local law. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that's the declaration that says that their insurance will indemnify us from any issues caused in relation to the event or because of the event.
Okay, I'll put in again. Do you guys assess at all if the event organizer has a good reputation, like if they've held events before that were a bit of a disaster? And
yeah,
how?
So like she's saying, I don't know of any events here that have been a disaster.
Well, if they held their event in Gladstone and that was a disaster there, and now they're coming to you and you kind of don't have any background knowledge because they've never held an event here before.
No, as long as they can meet all the criteria of this local law permit, then we don't do any further research. I think the only times we have is when there's been like actually I think the only time I have, there was we had a big Ferris wheel come here, so I rang a couple of councils to find out how they were at those areas. And then we had another carnival guy wanting to come not long after that. And our communications team looked him up because it was just like, he rang me and I was like, it just didn't feel right. I don't know. It just didn't feel right. So when our communications team looked him up, his carnival had just, some safety guys had gone out and they actually shut down one of his rides because they didn't have the right safety certificates or whatnot. And the guy that was the operator of that ride actually tried to stab the safety guy with a screwdriver. So that's the only other activity where where we were definitely a hell no to that person coming to the region. But other than that, no, we've never had any issues. Like you have little things like where someone hasn't booked enough bins or they haven't cleaned up or they've left whatever reason, all those little things, but there's never been any sort of major incidents. We've had a couple of like where the grass gets too wet and people leave potholes like divots and that sort of stuff, but we've never had big issues. Cross fingers.
What about when you think this kind of event is probably not what we want to attract here? Like I'm living near the Southern Downs where they've just got rid of sort of a bit of a party, druggy music festival for young people because they just didn't really want it. Do you ever have a way to assess events like that and you say you don't really suit the amenities, the place?
No, we haven't really had any applications with that. The only ones that our mayor's a vegan, so he's very much against any rodeos. He's anything against like rodeo circuses, all of that. But to put it politely, his personal opinion shouldn't impact the whole region. So we have had a few events where they've actually been declined sponsorship because of his personal opinion.
But they could still take place. They just don't get funding or something. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, if anything, we're trying to attract more events here. But a lot of the events here we get are sporting events because we've got such a smooth bay. And Kushla, have you been up here, or have any of you actually been to the Fraser Coast ever?
Yeah.
A very, very long time ago.
Well, our bay, because we've got Fraser Island not far offshore, the bay is absolutely flat, or pretty much. It gets a little wavy, but it's not waves. So we attract a lot of triathlons, a lot triathlon events. We get the state schools triathlon because we've got the sports precinct now that's slowly been developed. We get like a lot of cross-country school carnivals, and we've got the Harvey Bay 100, which is a massive triathlon event. We get a lot of our events are sporting events, so we have no issues with those. I can't think of any others where there've been any issues. Like I said, you get the little things, but there's been no major issues at any of our events, and nothing that's flagged with me enough to think, oh, I should ring someone about these. So.
Can you show that map again? Because that was the site map for your.
Oh yeah, this is what I was trying to load before.
Yeah.
So this is for Seafront Oval. So ignoring all these arrows, there's like this is I can't see exactly what's what, but there's the sewage lines, there's where the lights are, all of that. So these red and green arrows. So this one is more like a guy that used to work with us edited this because we wanted to sort of give advice on where to put things. So we had toilets here. There's a dump pit here, so we were suggesting any amenity trucks go there. There's an emergency access and egress here, so we were like, okay, well, emergency service should obviously go there. The red and green arrows are entry and exit points. Now, this was done in 2019 or 2020, so it's changed since then. Like I would place things in different places now that like the power's all the same, obviously. Actually, I think we've lost one of these, I think, in a storm, but there's like I would change where we put things. Like I always advise people, food vendors go along this roadside pretty much because the toilets are up here. So we just try and it's just easier, especially for event organisers that they have no idea about keeping food vendors away from toilets or making sure jumping couches are actually near power so they can use them, like all of that sort of stuff. So and then we've got in here, like I don't share this map with anyone because I think it's out of date. We need to update it, but this is the sort of map we will be developing. But ideally, it'll be in layers so you can select. This was always supposed to be in layers. So if you're in Intramaps, you can select. I want first aid. Where's the suggested location? We put here because it's emergency access and egress. Like on this side of the stage is where I would put an ATM because there's power there. It's easily accessible. There's plenty of lighting there, so that's where I put that. And then like we put toilets up here where this blue square is because there's a dump point there. So, and this is like a U-turn. So it's a good space for the trucks to come and drop it off. Most events close. This is a back car park. You can't really see it very well, but this is a back car park where my cursor is. So most people will close that whole car park during an event. If it's a major event, they just use that for vendors or dressing rooms or whatever they use it for. Your little faces keep jumping around. I don't know if you can see it, but they keep jumping around my screen. And so I keep having to move it out of the way.
We can't see that bit. No.
So we've got different we made a few. Here's I think this is the infrastructure map. I think it's because
Or an
Sorry.
evacuation plan. I saw an evacuation plan there as
Yes.
well. So you have some of those for some of your key venues.
Yeah, so I don't really share them. They're from events that I've run, but it's more so like I don't like to share them because then we could be seen as being liable, but I can use them like this as reference if I'm on call to people rather than sending them, or I send them to people internally that are running events. So this is all of the infrastructure under Seafront. So you can see why we don't share this, because you look at that and like I look at that and I'm like, what the hell is all of that? Everything in purple is irrigation, but that's what I was saying. They said this isn't exact, it's within 5 meters of those. So I'm like, we can't have pegs in the ground anywhere when we've got a new executive manager or newish executive manager of open space now, who is more of the mind of we need to activate these sites, and if someone busts an irrigation pipe, it's not that much to replace, which is really good. So he's a bit more supportive of like he'd rather do that and then just invoice them replacing the pipe than turn people away. And most event organisers are more than happy with that. It's only the major carnivals and circuses and concerts and things, and to them, $200 for a bit of irrigation is pocket change, so they don't usually mind. And then, where did I have that evacuation one? Oh yeah, this isn't one I use. I don't know where this one's. Oh, and I also wanted to get traffic guidance schemes made for all of our event sites so that people could just say, like, so Seafront over there would be 3, there would be 1. This is, I actually haven't used this one. So we'd have a traffic management plan for the Esplanade closure, for the back car park closure, and then for if they're going to close both and the roundabout. But when I spoke to the traffic management company, they bought a couple of them. They wouldn't do it because logically it takes away from their business if we're providing these plans to event organisers. If we did provide them, then those people still need to go and get them signed off each time they use it, but at least then we'd be able to help them with a bit of the cost with getting them and drawn up initially. But anyway, that's a headache for another day. And then we've just got this is just a generic declaration, like saying they're going to adhere. This is where it covers us on all of their management plans of risk management things. So it says like they agree that all relevant health and safety standards will be met. Council does not accept liability. If successful, the organisation will ensure the event evaluation is completed within 60 days. That's definitely not something I'm strict to. Because it's been such a chaotic few years, like those evaluations, most people don't know how to fill them in properly anyway. So it's it gives us basic data, but nothing substantial really. Whereas the new system has a lot more detail. That they've done a risk management plan, and then I understand and acknowledge that it's an offence to do blah blah blah. Like it's very very generic, and that this is classed as your electronic signature. Yeah, our solicitors, our lawyers approved all of this, so I'm not too worried about having a tick box rather than actual signature. That was one of the things. That was a big question when we started this process, was how were they going to be able to sign online when most people, there's no way people could use a digital signature. And this was like before, when everyone started getting on board with QR codes and online forms and all of that. So it was a lot less. Yeah, people just didn't want to do it at the time. So tick box worked. Then you've got the authorized person. This is often the same person as the contact on the first page, but it doesn't have to be. We've got some community development. Our team, they're doing Youth Week coming up in a couple of weeks, and they've actually filled out some of these application forms for event organisers. And so they'll fill it out. They'll be the contact person, but then they'll put whoever the business is as the authorised person. And then I can actually change the form to being in that council staff member's name or into the event organiser's name. So what they'll do, they'll complete the whole form. And then once she's completed it all, she'll send it to, like, I'll change the user to the actual event organizer, and then he'll go through it all and just check that all the information's correct, and then he'll sign it off as he'll tick the box and hit submit as the authorized person. We don't do that for many people, but it's just this particular time to help because we've got so many events happening, and it's just this particular lady, she's new and she really wants to help them out. So, and I don't really mind if she does it as long as someone does the application. So,
just kind of put in with, I'm aware of the time,
yeah.
and Lisa's often very busy. You guys keen to stay a little bit, are available to
Oh
stay
yeah, I
a little
didn't
bit
even
longer to
notice
see
the time.
the back end?
Yeah, we can
You
hang
good
on if
Sorry, I
if
didn't
you've
even
got the
realise what the
time,
time
Michaela,
was.
no worries.
Oh yeah, I do.
It's
That's
amazing
fine.
information.
I'm just double checking. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry, I didn't realise. I talk a lot and I didn't realise what time it was.
There's a lot.
Correct up on me as
So,
well.
our old application form for 23-24 had a fee waiver application in it. So when they got to after camping, there was a fee waiver application form. My boss wanted to make it a separate form, so we've made it a separate form. I would not recommend that. We did it so that they had to do they had to answer. It's exactly the same form, but it's separated out now, and it's causing so much extra work for us because they've got a question in here that says, what's your activity application number? So that we could cross-reference this to their actual application to determine what the fees are. But people keep putting in their actual, like the fee waiver application number that comes up here, wherever it is. Anyway, and they keep putting that in, and it's like, it's infuriating because people have been putting in more than one application, whether they forget, I don't know, but then you've got one event application, or you'll have 2 event applications and 3 fee waivers, and you're like, and then it's just such a headache. So I would not recommend, if you're going to do this, I would not recommend doing that. I would keep it within the form. I see where my boss was coming from in that she wants to make it that people have to actually put effort in. They just don't expect that they get it, but it's created the amount of work that it's created for us. I don't think she sees how much work it's created for us.
Plus, they have to reiterate their own information, which is just like you said. Why make people work harder? Like,
yeah, exactly.
This is often a complaint we hear that people have to provide the same information over and over again to council that they've already provided.
Exactly. Like if they did this would be the 3rd time someone's completing applicant details because they've done it twice on the other application form. But for fee waivers anyway, so we ask, they provide the event name, see the same details. The only difference is they've got these 3 questions that they have to answer, which is provide details why you're applying for it, how does the event benefit the community, and how will you publicly acknowledge council. I had those questions in the application form, so I would leave them in there. And I can always send you guys the older versions as well. Like this is the 24-25 version, but I've got 22-23 and 23-24. They're pretty much the same. It's just where I've deleted some questions or I've reworded some or like fixed bits and pieces. Last bit is we ask for would they like to receive further communication from us? Yes or no? I'll tick no. How was the form? Was it easy, very easy, neutral, difficult, very difficult? Most of the time we just get neutral. It's either neutral or very easy or very difficult. People either have a lot to say or they just couldn't be bothered. So usually when it's very difficult, it's more about their event is quite basic and there's so many questions in this, but I don't think people actually think about the fact that this is one form for every type of event on the Fraser Coast. It's not just for parkrun that only has to tick that they've got, one thing. So most people though, like it's taken a few years, but most people are sort of all over it and understand how to use it all. Then it comes to the review page. I'm on hotspots. I think that's why it's taking so long to load. So I've got this page where I've put that. So from all the questions that they've answered, these are the 2 fees that will be applicable for their event, application and traffic guidance scheme review. That took me a while to work out like all the different conditions needed because like this form isn't conditional enough there's too many conditions for me to determine all of the fees by the end of the form because our fee structure is we have low, medium and high impact events and the fees are determined by which one they are. And so this form, I can't make it conditional enough to calculate what those fees will be. It's like even in my head, I have to go through step by step to actually determine. I've got a little matrix that I use. So if there's like under 500 people and no food vendors and no circus, blah, blah, blah. Like if it's just a marquee and under 500 people, it's low impact. But if it's a concert and fireworks and whatnot, it's high impact. And if there's more than 3,000 people, it's high impact, those sorts of things. But yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't make this conditional enough. But I could make it enough to tell them what the fee would be, just not the actual dollar figure. Not that I don't think anyone reads that anyway. I only did that because in this, in the fee waiver, they have to select which fees they want waived. More often than not, people just select all of them because they're like, I just want every fee waived. I don't care what's applicable. I just want them all waived. Then you've just got the review page, and of course, there's something I haven't ticked. It comes up red to tell you that you haven't, that something's missed. Food. I should have known this would take more than an hour because I've done it with other people before and it's done the same thing.
You're teaching other council office staff in other places this?
No, internal
right? Okay.
staff. Internal staff.
Yeah.
When I've had to show them, I think the only other person I've done this with might be Bundaberg, might be the only other place. I actually had someone contact me the other day about it, or about actually, it might have been Toowoomba. There's a lady from Toowoomba. Yeah, there was a lady from Toowoomba, and I said, I said I'll because I had a quick call with her about our new booking system, and I said I'd explained because her booking system's just for halls at the moment. So I was explaining to her about all of this, and I said, oh God, I missed ticking a lot of things. I said to her that I'd send her this invite, but I didn't hear back from her, so I hadn't sent it. What have I missed now? Sorry, I tried to tick no to everything so I wouldn't end up having to go back and do all of this. It wasn't until this morning when I got in and saw my calendar, and I'd planned on having one of these completely done so that I could just run you through it and not have to answer them all. But, oh God, what is it?
It's good because it just shows what the event organizer happens, and there's not.
Yeah.
I don't think there's every single question has to be answered. Like the one about how was this easy or hard to do?
Yeah.
Again.
Well, that's why it's not popping up with. I might finally get to. I didn't think the front part, like it would take me this long to show you, and then, yeah, okay, cool. So, still not at the page. Because I haven't even gotten to the background bit yet. We can also jump on a call another day if you guys need to go. Anyway, so it takes you to this page where you review it all and then you hit submit. And then from there, I get an email. I never check the emails because I get so many. They just come in as, find it. See, your little faces are in the way again now. So they just come through like this. Application's been submitted. I don't. Everyone's got different processes, but I just save these in a folder because every day I go in and I just log in and check where I'm up to, so I can see what's been processed and what hasn't. So do you guys have time to go through the back end of this, or at least part of it, or do you want to wait? Yeah, awesome, cool. So I've just logged in. How did you guys say you've got SmartyGrants and you've used it before?
We don't have SmartyGrants, but I've used it for applying for grants many times.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, well, I'll go a bit slower with the background then. You won't need to know every part. I'll just show you what the form looks like once it's been submitted.
Thank you.
Okay, so I log in. We've got a few different rounds. So we've got community grants, events, sponsorships. There's a heap of different rounds that other teams have got. These are just the ones I can see because I don't need access to the others. So once I click on that, it gives me all. Computer's too small. These are the different rounds we've got open. So people can apply for a wet area application separately if it's not part of an event that needs a permit. So if we have a wedding that they want some champagne at their ceremony, they'll submit a wet area application rather than a full event application. And then there's the fee waiver application that we can review as well. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, aside from the venue booking, has there been any other drawbacks with this that you think?
Yeah, little. Overall, it's amazing. I would say that things like not being able to calculate those fees is a pain, but that's the way our fees are set out as well, because there's so many different criteria. Whereas if you've got like a flat daily fee for every event, like it would be a lot easier. The annoying part is that it's very manual. Once you've gone through all of this, I have to then manually create the local law approval document and then have to manually email it out. It's like it is the actual process for the customer is easy, and it's much easier for us than it used to be, but it's still a very manual process once you've received and processed the application. So I won't go through all of the how to get to this page, because if you like, I can show you guys at a later date.
Yeah, more.
Because
so has it saved you? It has saved you time, do you think?
yeah, absolutely.
That's because I think
saved me
from
a lot of
this,
time.
for
Yeah.
colleagues, when they don't have enough event approval staff, so they're really busy with all their other priorities, their other workload as well. So they just want this part to be as less back and forth as possible. As less back and forth with the other teams at council as possible, as quick and efficient and automated as possible. And that's kind of how it works for you guys.
Yep. It's really good for our internal back and forth. So this is I'll go through what it looks like from a customer, from our point of view in a minute. But let's say I've reviewed the whole application and everything looks perfect. I create a task here, and this is how I send it to all of my team. So I'll go health assessment or whatever you want to call it. This is what's annoying. I have to manually type that in. I can't just select what the title is. And there's never a drop down that gives you like it. Then you've got to do the default assignee. So for this, I would send it to health admin. So we've got their generic email set up as a login, so they'll log in and be able to see it. And then I'll add their assessment task, which is the environmental health assessment. I have to set that form up as well. They're all forms that I can send to you guys. But everyone, like your teams might assess things differently to what we do it. But I'm happy to work with anyone on how that works. I won't send this one, but normally you would just save it and it'll send them an email either right then, once a day, or not at all. So when our executive manager signs them, I don't send her an email. She just logs in like every second day and does them all. So she doesn't get an inbox flooded with SmartyGrants emails.
I love that it asked them to respond by a certain day and hasn't automated reminder like 2 days before or whatever. That's so good.
I've stopped doing so. When we set this process, it was supposed to be that every internal team had 10 business days to get back to me, like to finish this. And if they didn't, it was deemed approved by those teams and we could send the approval. But we haven't ever gotten to that stage because there's so many, like one of those things that once it was up and running, we were like, yep, let's just keep running with it. And we've had so many other projects on that we haven't made it any better. So there's definitely ways to make this better. I don't put the due date because I'll only end up having to go back in and reopen it for them at a later date anyway. But most of my teams do get it to us with it like at decent times. There's every now and then our coastal team's probably the worst, but that's because they're not desk workers. They're always out on the grounds doing stuff, so I've got to chase them. And so if I look here, so default assignees, this whole top bit isn't, they're administrators, they're nothing to do with me, but the assessors are relevant to me. So we've got the health team, which is the regulatory services, engineering services, which is coastal and roads. So if I select them, I've got the coastal assessment or the roads assessment. So it sends it to the same generic email, but they both teams get sent the assessment once they get it. We've got commercial and leasing. They don't often need a need to get sent an assessment. Theirs is just if it's on leased land or if the event is next to leased land. Waste team, property team, and parks. And then we've got the executive manager. So
if you need 4 or 5 teams to look at it, you have to send 4 or 5 emails. You can't just tick. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
So they're all different emails, kind of.
Yeah. These are the sorts of things that are really annoying. Whereas in the new system, from memory, because we're not up to that stage yet, it's been such a headache. I should be able to just tick each organizer, like each team, and it'll send them each their own assessment. The reason I have to attach different assessment forms, like in this bit, is because all their forms are different. They ask different questions. So now I can't close it. The environmental health team get a list of all of the local law conditions that are in the approval, and they have to select which ones they want in the approval. That's because they're the local law experts, and they're the authorised people to give this approval. The coastal team get a list of the coastal related questions, the coastal related conditions, and they select which ones. Tell me if I'm jumping all over the shop, but I figure I'll just show you quickly. It's easier than me explaining. So everyone has to fill out who is completing this assessment, click that they don't have a conflict of interest and that they'll maintain confidentiality. Do they require any additional information? And if they tick yes, what do you require? So it could be that there's a specific event that health would like to see, that they want some sort of specific plan that isn't in our regular application process. So we have an event on private land and they want a specific fire evacuation plan because they'd planned an event there in the past, which didn't go ahead, but luckily it did because there was bushfires around that time and they only had one entrance and exit. So this time the event, like health had asked for a specific plan. So that's where they can add anything else. And then these are a list of this is for coastal. These are a list of all the conditions that the coastal team can select from to let me know if they want any of those in there.
In Collie, there's a situation where there's a landowner, like Crown Land, where they did their own event approval assessment entirely. So council doesn't hear about events, but there might be reasons why they need to get involved, but they've never been told by the landowner. Do you have anything like that in Fraser Coast where like Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service is approving an event and you haven't been notified?
Not that I know of, but if I haven't been notified, then I don't know. I wouldn't say, there's none that I know of. We had the only event I can think of, which isn't quite the same, is that we have a market that's out at Byram Heads. They run on this piece of land that is state owned, but state don't think they give the permit for it. But we're not allowed to give them a permit for it because it's not our land. And then there was an Indigenous body involved with it. So there was a lot. It took months and months to work out who was giving them a permit. It ended up just going straight to regulatory services. And honestly, I have no idea where it went from there. I don't know if they got their permit or if it was state land or however it worked. But that's the only time we've ever really had any issues with other land. I can't think of any events that would be on state land. And if anyone contacts us about Gari, that's all National Parks and Wildlife. So I just refer them directly to there. So the health assessment form, this is the most detailed form and it's still the same as the coastal one. It's got all the same questions. Do they require any additional information? Health have to tell me what type of permit it is under local law, whether it's temporary entertainment event, public place activity or commercial use, or if no approval is required. If I'm not, most of the time, someone rings me and I can say to them, no, you don't need a permit, or yes, you do. But there's definitely time, like if I'm unsure, I'll get them to submit an application anyway, just so I can be on the safe side. Or there's sometimes people have submitted an application and it's one that I thought would need a permit and then they come back and say, no, it doesn't. So we've had like 4 of them in the last week. So I'm questioning them because I don't know why, we'd usually only have a couple a year and we've had like 4 or 5 in the last week. So I'm a bit unsure about why that's all of a sudden changed, but we will work on that in our own time. So this is a list of all of the conditions that are in the approval, but whatever the health team tick is what we use in the actual approval. I'll show you the approval document. General conditions are used for every approval. Council controlled areas is obviously any parks, any roads, any areas. But if it's on private land or leased land, then that doesn't get selected. And then everything else is just dependent on what questions they've answered in the form. So if we're back to let me close these. Okay, so we're back to the form of once they've submitted an application, It's the exact same as what we've just seen on the outside, like on the customer's version. On here, you can select hide disabled sections. And so I would hide, that gets rid of every section that they've said no to, which in this form should be every section because I've selected no to everything. But so if I show you under this, it'll say, so it's gotten rid of, normally there would be like under here, Maryborough, Burrum, etc., because they were all in the form. Let me show you actually. What actually annoys me is because I'm on my laptop, see how this takes up half the screen? The header takes up half the screen. You can't get rid of that. And like I've got a giant screen in my office, a really big one. It's like the size of 4 laptops. So it works perfectly fine, but on the laptop here, it's frustrating. So see here how this is all grayed out because they're like, because I didn't select it was auspiced. So if you select that top button, it gets rid of all of that gray. So here there's multiple ways I can do this. You can download the form as a PDF and with the attachments. I don't bother doing that because it's easier to just scroll down and look at all the answers. So I would just scroll through like the organization name here needs to match the ABN details and then also needs to match the name that's on the insurance. Unless it's auspiced, obviously, and then the auspice needs to match the name that they've put in the auspice section. We can check all the categories. Like I said, this is every answer that I just gave. All these grey parts will disappear. Public place, Harvey Bay, and then the adventure side. And then like all these are grayed out because we didn't select any of those.
So under where it says application 24, 25, 226, it says standard fields, application, assessment, decision, acquittal, variation, administration, context, file history. That sounds like it's really useful.
It is, yeah. So standard fields, we get to set the standard fields in the form. Like project titles is one of the standard fields. I don't use this tab, so I'm sure you can actually tailor it more. But like we've got the project start and end date, which is the event start and end date. But in the form, we've called it event start and end. Like this whole platform is based around projects and funding and everything. So we've just had to tweak the wording on a lot of it. So in the actual application form in the back end, it says project title, but what we've made the text on the customer end is event/activity name, so that it makes sense to them rather than the word project. I'll go through the other tabs in a minute.
How does it work in terms of assessment? Go through when this comes into you.
What was that? Sorry, you're breaking up, but I don't know if it's just me or you.
What's the process you go through when you get this? So you're just trying to farm out parts of this approval form to others.
So once I scroll through this, I'll check, like I've got a checklist, and I'll just know in my head that if someone selects yes, or every event application goes to health because they're regulatory services, they're the people that dictate any of the conditions. But then I'll go through, and if someone's selected public land, then obviously it goes to parks. If they've selected that they're going to use a beach, it goes to coastal. If they've selected that they've got a road closure, it goes to roads. Like I just, depending on the answers to the questions, is who I send it to. Once I have sent it to, so when it first comes in, the stage is not processed. That's what it goes to automatically when they submit it. I've got additional documents requested, form reopen, so that if we go through and they're missing whatever documents or they need to update information, I can reopen the form. So when they're filling the form, I can't see it. And then when they submit it, then I can see it. So I'd reopen the form so then they can log in and make any of the changes I've requested. So if if I have to request additional information, I'll change it to that. And then when that person resubmits their form, it automatically goes back to not processed. So I know when it comes back in. So that's why I don't read the emails, because when I come in, I just check. Let's go back into this. I just go to applications and I filter by stage. And so I'll go straight to not processed. And then I'll be able to see, this has got fee waivers as well, but I'll be able to see all the not processed applications. Or then I can go to what is it? Additional documents requested. and then be able to see all of the ones that I'm still waiting on information for. Once I reopen it for someone and send it to them, then it's on them. I don't, and maybe I should, but I don't chase these people because I'm like, they know that I've sent them emails. When you reopen a document, it asks if you want to send them an email, and I say yes, so it sends them an email. And I've also sent them an email requesting the information that I want. So I don't continually chase these people because it's just a waste of my time constantly going back and forth. Okay, so back to the form. I don't know how much of this I really need to go through because you've just seen all of the questions on the front end. It just looks slightly different on our end. Let's go down to where we're up to. So you can view the sitemap and all the details that they've seen. If they tick yes to food, obviously, like you can. Does it make sense to you guys? Do you want me to go through this whole page?
No, Lisa, you're the one who what do you need to see? What do you think is?
I think at the moment what we've seen is amazing and very interested, but obviously it'll go down to what everybody else thinks as well, and costing and all of that sort of stuff.
Absolutely.
So no, but it's definitely something that we need to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, do we need
to keep looking at the back end at this stage? I don't think so. I think
fun.
Just because we have to get a process in place before we.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is not a training session. It's like a looking at what the options are session. Yeah.
Yep.
So anything else?
Yeah. Any
Perhaps
questions?
I know you said you're going to look once it's approved. What's submitted then? To the
approval
is that what you're going
letter?
to show? Yeah.
Oh, yes,
is that what something you're going to talk about? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what your approvals look like, but when we did this whole process, before everything went to SmartyGrants and I took over as the event concierge, is what we'll say. Every team gave their own permit. So engineering services did letter of no objection, health gave a local law approval, parks gave an approval. It was all over the shop. It just went out to people willy-nilly, and it was like people would get one and think their event's approved and not get another, and it was just all over the shop. So we put everything into one form, which is why like parks were very happy to wipe their hands of it. All they have to do now is tick a box that says yes, we endorse this to occur on their asset.
So like everyone's responses comes back to you.
Yep.
And you knew who it went out to, like if you're still waiting on a response, and then you write this letter and you just kind of copy and paste.
I don't have to copy and paste anything. I'll show you how I do that. So once people submit their assessment, it comes up here. So I'll be able to see their assessments, and that's when I can click on it and see the answers to all their questions. It also sends, once someone submits their application, it sends me a task saying someone submitted an assessment, sorry. It'll send me a task saying health has submitted their assessment, blah, blah, blah. So same thing as earlier. I don't read those emails. I just go into this every day or every second day to see what's still there. So this is what our form looks like. So we've got our cover letter, which is just a generic approval for. We've got the head of power, which is local law. Our schedule, which is all of the approval details. So the approval holder, which is the organisation or individual, the event names, dates, times, locations. We add a sitemap. It's usually those maps that I just showed you, the one with the blue line that I showed earlier. I don't use their sitemaps really because usually they're all over the shop and they're dodgy. They're not great. There's some, like we've got a school cross country that's happening in a couple of weeks. We use their sitemap because it's literally just an aerial view with their run route on it. So we use theirs because there's no point us trying to redo that. The property address and the lot plan number, and then the application number, that like the SmartyGrants application number, and then what type of approval. So in the past, health had the 3 different separate types of approval, and they were listed up here. Like it'd say temporary entertainment event approval, and I wanted to get rid of that because I really didn't want 3 different templates, because that would just be confusing not really for me because I built the system, but it would be confusing for anyone else coming in. So all we do here is just delete whichever type it is. This is highlighted because depending on what the approval is, if it's a public place activity, I delete the word event. And if it's a temporary entertainment event, I delete the word activity, and council used areas, I keep the word activity and delete event. So that's why that's highlighted. if someone submits insurance and it goes out of date before their event, but it's not close enough to the time where they've got to renew it, then I ask that, like, we'll check their insurance, see what date it is due, like what date it expires, and then we'll put a date that's like, I sort of just wing it really. There's no set formula, but I'll either put maybe 2 weeks before the event date, or if it's a close time between the two, like maybe a certificate expires a week before an event, I'll say like 2 days after the new insurance should be in place, I'll say they need to send us a copy. I don't chase people for that because they've already ticked all the declarations to say that we're indemnified anyway. But most of the time people just email it to me anyway, and then I just upload it. There's a contact section in this form, and you can upload any documents onto here. So I just upload it there to save it. Anyway, and then you go down. So we've got, this is listed, all these conditions are listed in the exact same order that the environmental health tick boxes are, so that it's very easy for my brain to go, these are the ones we need, like, and delete it. So the whole, if I zoom out, that's however many pages of conditions. There's a lot of conditions, and I just go through and delete which ones are relevant, which ones are irrelevant. So we've got general and then parks conditions, and we've also got advisory clauses. So those are guidelines that aren't enforceable by local law. Then we've got, say, noise. I'll delete noise if there's no amplified noise, and I'll just remove that. And so when I delete that, it renumbers itself, so that food then becomes number 3, etc. So, and it's quite easy. Like, I literally just do that, and then I just save it. I don't want to save that. So, and that goes through, like I said, there's all those pages worth. I think and each year we tend to have, like, add some. So we had to add airport operations because we have in Maryborough Airport, we had an event there. We have every year, we have it's called Wings on Wheels. So it's like an aircraft and car show. It's only ever used for that event, but I put it in this because there was like 3 years where they had new staff, and every year they were like, oh, what about this? Oh, we need to put this in. And it was driving me nuts having to change it every year. So I got the executive manager to approve these conditions, and every year I'm like, these are the conditions unless you have something to add. Otherwise, just leave the damn things alone. Stop changing it. Anyway, and then, like, we've added erection of large structures but like a lot of these conditions they just refer straight to whatever the other acts are, because council wants to wipe their hands of as much liability as possible. So like Liquor Act, provision of alcohol just says go to the Liquor Act, you need to adhere to your license. And then, and for like a wet area, that's a completely separate. So we'll go letter of no objection. So my boss, my executive manager, signs off on the local law approval. Now everything's going to freeze. Just loading. And so my executive manager, whether we should or not, her signature's just automatically in there. And so I don't have to mess around with her. She has a questionnaire in SmartyGrants, an assessment in SmartyGrants the same way everyone else does. So once all of my team to submit their assessments, like health and everywhere, I review it all. I make sure that I'm happy that the assessors have covered everything they need to. So there's been times where we had a new environmental health staff member last year, and I was noticing that events that I would think are public place activities, he was calling temp entertainment events. So then I'd just question whether, and it was just because he was learning, and things like that. So I'll check all of their assessments just to make sure it's covered everything that I think it needs to cover, or if they've missed any conditions. And if so, I'll go back to them with questions, like when they said no approvals required, and I'm like, really? So anyway, so her signature's on there. So once those stakeholders submit their assessments and I review it all, then I send an assessment to my executive manager, and then she reviews. Whether she actually reviews it or not, I have no idea. I think she just trusts that I've already done the whole process and she just ticks it off. But her questions say, like, have you reviewed this application? Do you approve this? Blah, blah, blah. So, and then she just ticks them because that takes all the liability off me. I don't really care either way, but it takes it off me and gives it to the executive manager or my manager when she's away. we're having some issues at the moment with who's responsible for what, because I have got no delegation or authority to issue approvals, but I'm the concierge that sends it out. Reg Services is trying to push back and say that it's my job, like that I'm the one liable for all of these conditions. So we've got a bit of a, I think over the last couple of years, there's just, we were on the same page for ages, and then all of a sudden in the last couple of months, I think they're trying to wipe their hands of everything they can. So it's a bit of a, so yeah, one thing I would say is make sure everything's recorded and write a very clear plan of who's responsible for what, because although we wrote a lot of documents, we had a lot of documents. So now trying to go back and finding who said what and when has been a headache. The other document is our letter of no objection. So we've got the application number, the applicant, the name of the activity, location, all the same details, the closure period, and then the affected roads. This is why I get them to type it in into that question, so that I don't have to go through the traffic management plan and work out what roads are affected. In the roads questionnaire, they have these listed. These are the different types of letters of no objection. And then the roads team will select, like health do with the conditions, the roads team will select which ones are relevant, and I'll just delete which ones aren't. I add the traffic management plan or the traffic guidance scheme number, so we know that this letter is specific to whichever plan. And then I've got their signature as well, so that once they've ticked their assessment, they're happy for me to send it with their name. With this new process, with this new system, they'll be taking over doing this. Again, the letters no objection, because they've changed their own systems and they're happy with the way, because they've had new staff. And I'm more than happy to give some of this work back. Yeah. And then this is just the conditions that we saw in the application form that the event organizer had already ticked to say they'd read. Oh, I think I need a drink. Sorry I've kept you guys back for an extra 40 minutes to what we'd planned.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's so interesting to learn, and it's good to see the detail, because that's how we can apply it to Collie in our heads. So it's been helpful.
Yep. Yeah, great. I have the
It's
only
so
other thing
good.
I'll say is that when we do an application, if an event gets postponed or they need a change, I've just got a variation form that's just it's a basic I won't show you, but it basically just says what are you changing, time, date, waste, whatever, and it's just got a list of those activities, and then you click which one, and that's the only question that pops up, so that they don't have to redo the whole question, the whole thing. And I only need to send that.
Useful.
Yeah, and I only send that after an approval's already been issued. If the approval hasn't been issued yet, I just reopen the application form and they update it from there. Because yeah, like the last thing I need is someone to have to refill an entire form. But it also means if it's only the let's say the date changing, I don't have to send that. No, not the date. Oh, now I can't think of one. If they're having extra food vendors, I don't need to let the waste team know that. So if they submit that, I'll only send it to the health team for an update. Or if they're only updating their waste, I don't need to send that to parks or health. I only send it to waste. So it helps me not having to send it to everyone for reassessment.
Kayla, for an event that happens every year and barely changes at all, can they have this application form kind of pre-filled in from last time, and they just have to go through every single? They have to start from scratch every time.
Yeah, which everyone hates. Which I get why they don't like it. We get a lot of people. We've got a few oldies that say we've been running this event for 20 years and we shouldn't need this. The only thing that changes is the insurance. And I'm like, yeah, but we've got Anzac Day. They're like, we run it the same every year. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand that regulations change in that 12 months. Like, we still need to see a traffic management plan every year, which sucks, but like, it is what it is. So yeah, trying to explain to those people why they need to do it every year. It would be great if they could just pre-populate, but unfortunately it doesn't do that. There is a new thing called Smarty File, which I think they can upload their insurance to that, so that they don't have to add it to each application separately. They can like click it. I think where it had the upload, it had upload, and then it had wrong button. Anyway, I won't waste more of your time, but it had the upload, or it had like upload from Smarty File or something on it. And so they could upload it from there. So they can do it like that way for certain things, but the majority of it they have to fill the whole thing again.
Cool. Now we just need Alex to say yes for Tracy's sake. Make life easier. Do you think, Lisa, would it be a good investment? I mean, obviously depending on the cost and council's appetite, but does it feel like this would help you?
Oh, well, it's going to be Tracy now, but yeah, I think so.
It would be great to have a system like that. I don't know whether we'll get SmartyGrants because we don't offer any community grants or anything anymore.
Yeah.
So it would just be for this at this stage. I can't think of any other things we might need it for, but
what bookings do you have a booking system you use for your parks or halls?
not at this stage.
How many do you know how many parks and halls you have?
How many what, sorry?
How many parks and halls?
Oh gosh, no, I wouldn't know off the top of my head.
We have a booking system for meeting rooms and things like that. We don't have for any of our parks or
How big's your area? Like how big's your council and your constituency?
We've only got about 8,000.
We're 8,500 is our population.
Okay. I was going to say we've got a new booking system, which I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But I thought, I could show you that to give you an idea of some other platforms. But for that many, like for that such a small area, I don't think you'd want to invest that much money into it.
No, I don't think we.
And when we don't have as yet huge events coming through, we're getting a few things, but much smaller regular events.
Yeah. We definitely have. We've got a lot of events that come into the region, but community events run by local organisations are definitely are the majority. So, which are probably the same in most areas, I suppose. You look at somewhere like Brisbane. When I was doing this, I looked at Brisbane, and I think at the time they weren't doing local law approvals for anything that had under 2,000 people, and I'm like, that's a massive event. Like it's like, well, for somewhere like you guys, that's like a quarter of your population.
Is there something in between, like what they currently have is an editable PDF, and then everything that happens in the back end is by hand, is manually done? Is there somewhere in the middle, like an online form? Did you ever see anything else that kind of automated those requests out to the internal staff or anything like that?
We used to have property and rating. That's the tech one thing. I'm going to say no, because even in my old council, I worked in a smaller council, would have been similar size. I think it was about 10,000 people. But it was all manual as well, because they just couldn't justify putting the amount of money into going to, which is ridiculous, because they spend that much money on a staff member having to do it all manually. But trying to justify that to a council, it doesn't work.
We're still going to do the back end.
I mean,
keep an ear out. But...
Yeah, and I think it would be really great for Alex and Tracy to see this and see what the possibilities are, because at the moment we've got some big gaps in our process as well, especially by looking at that that we could really fill by using an automated system like SmartyGrants.
I'd be happy to have a meeting with you guys one day, and you could run me through what your process is, like what just everything you do start to finish, and where you think your gaps are, and then we can have a look and see what, like, also I can see if I can find something like what I've seen from elsewhere that might work.
We have that written down. We've just done like a review of the process, and so if you guys felt comfortable sharing, you could share that with Michaela. I certainly don't mind if you share. I was thinking though, like, you guys used to have in Collie an events officer. That person left. The current event approvals administrator is really overworked. It might be that way of saying, well, it saves you hiring like an event concierge, which is what you were requesting, what you'd like to have. So that might be the option that you said, Michaela. Like, it's a lot to invest, but if it's less than hiring a person, that's good.
I have a feeling ours is like 20 or 30,000 a year, but that's including all the grants. So like there's a lot that I think that's what we pay. But we do a lot of work on SmartyGrants with all of our grants. We've got sponsorships on there now and this process. So your events approval person, what's their background? Like, are they sort of a regulatory services sort of?
It's Lisa. Changing back to Lisa. Tracy. That's okay.
So at the moment, my role was we've just handed it over to Tracy. She used to do it prior to me coming in. So my other role is a safety officer, risk management, insurance, and customer service. So they've taken the events out and given it back to Tracy, and Tracy does
so she does admin for
ranger services,
ranger and planning
and health.
and health.
Yep. Oh, well, that helps with having all of that knowledge, because just being, I know that when I first came into this and started looking at this, I literally had to sit down with our local laws and like spread it across my desk, and had a big whiteboard, and I just had like arrows matching to like prescribed activity, and then in the subordinate local law what that actually meant, and like, oh, it was such a headache. So that's why I was wondering if it was someone, like if it was an event manager or someone that was doing the role, or if it was someone sort of from a regulatory services background. So like when I came into it, I'm absolutely I came into it with very little local law knowledge. I've been an event manager for a long time, but then I'd also worked at a council when I was younger in records. So I had that sort of local government knowledge, but local law wise, it was a headache trying to learn it.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Your knowledge is amazing, Michaela. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Michaela.
No worries.
So generous of you. Really appreciate your time.
It's very nice to hear that, actually, because I sit in my office and I'm like, I have got no knowledge compared to so many people in my office.
No, yeah, no, and you know, to be able to pull together a form and a system like that, that's